I should have started it on that.
And just like that, we are going. Nothing like gargling some water to get going on a podcast. So welcome, everybody. This is episode number 17 of the Nutrient Health Project podcast. As always, my name is Andrew Frisch.
Holly Frisch.
Holly Frisch, my beautiful wife, assistant coach. So here we are. Episode number 17. This has been an episode in the making. This is a little behind the scenes and a little housekeeping. This is actually the third time that we're recording this episode. So we tried to do it. Well, we did it, October of last year, and then took the hiatus to go off into computer programming. And then when we came back, we actually recorded this episode last week. But I think, so this is episode 17, episode number 16 on time, which was intended to be a motivational, stop wasting time in your life, go out and do some things. It was intended to be a motivational one. I think it went into a ball of flames because I was fasted as we were recording. And the only thing I had at all that day was a little bit of MCT oil. There was no caffeine involved in that, believe it or not, but I was like a squirrel stuck in traffic.
I think you were super talkative and I was very untalkative.
Yeah, because prior to recording, you already said you were kind of lethargic. And I was like, well, you better pep up because here we go. And yeah, I was a little too peppy. So episode 16 is out, and I think it's full transparency. I think it's the worst podcast we've ever done. But I wanna fix that and do this one properly. Like I said, we tried to record this one last weekend, and it was a dumpster fire of epic proportions, in my opinion. So much so that the last 5 minutes of the episode, I was zoning out, and I was like, this is bad. This is really bad. And she was like, you should go ahead and post it anyways, and let people see that we're human. I was like, no, that thing is never seeing the light of the day. So here we are. We're going to do this one properly, and let's talk about some blood sugar. So the reason we're talking about blood sugar, I had made a post on Facebook a couple days ago, yesterday, 2 days ago, just showing my back definition, I guess, kind of a mandatory flex picture. And I think one of the most important things in getting a good, healthy physique like that is knowing how to manipulate and optimize your blood sugar. So, and real quick too, I would be remiss if I skipped over this part, guys. If you learn anything from this podcast, if you learn from anything from any of our podcasts, please, all we ask is you share the episode online, take a screenshot of the little Nutrient logo as it's playing on your Spotify or Apple Podcast or your podcast player of choice. Take a screenshot of it. Post it to Facebook, post it to Instagram. This is your chance to educate people that you may know, right? Tell them what you learned and just tag us. If it's on Facebook or Instagram, tag us at @nutrient_official. That way you can kind of help us get the word out. And if you can, leave us a 5-star review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, because that is really the only way that we're going to grow. Our whole goal with this is to help you grow and improve, and leaving us a 5-star review, it just helps because it feeds the little algorithm buggers, the codes on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. If you leave us a 5-star review, if you can share this, if you learned anything, we really appreciate it. And lastly, if you have any questions based on today's episode or just for the future, we're actually going to be doing a Q&A episode. This is 17. I think we're going to do a Q&A episode for episode number 19. And in case you're wondering, number 18 is probably going to be a micronutrient on how to get a six-pack. So that should be a big hit. So if you have questions, don't forget, email us at nutrienthaf, all one word, nutrienthaf, at gmail.com. And what's that HAF stand for, you may ask? Or maybe not, but it could be Holly and Andy Frisch. It could be Healthy AF, whatever you want it to be. So nutrienthaf at gmail.com. All right, now back to the show. So we're going to talk blood sugar because balancing that blood sugar, number one, is super important for having a good, healthy physique, for being able to manipulate your body into letting go of stored fat, right? So think about it like this. If your goal is fat loss, or if your goal is just optimizing your physique or recompositioning your body, right? So maintaining or building muscle while losing fat, managing your blood sugar is going to be super, super important in that. It's going to play a crucial role into that. And there are times where I'll see people who I know that are, at least in the past, we haven't been in a gym for a while because we have a gym at our home. But there were times where I would see people come into the gym with the intention of doing what they thought was like a fat loss workout, and they're, eating a banana or an apple or some oatmeal or something beforehand, and that can be counterproductive. So, and really quick too, with this episode, this is probably going to be a very heavy Andy episode.
Yeah.
Holly, she's going to kind of chip in when she can, and I'll turn it over to her, so it's not just all me talking. But I've already kind of assumed that this is going to be like an 85% me and 15% her.
This is Andy's forte.
Yeah. So this is like getting into the sciencey stuff, but because it is a micronutrient episode, which I'm still super happy about coming up with that term, like it's just these little bite-sized episodes, micronutrient, because it's a micronutrient one. I'm going to try to not dive too deep into the science of everything. We're going to kind of keep it surface level. So yeah, with that,
let's get started.
I mean, we've already been started. We're already like 6 minutes in. But so outside of getting a good physique, why is it important to maintain and balance your blood sugar? So number one, just in the short term, it's important because if your blood sugar is not controlled, if it's not, I shouldn't say controlled, but if your blood sugar is not balanced, if you don't have healthy blood sugar optimization in your body, your energy levels are going to be up and down all day long, right? This is where you feel like you're getting a craving for, for some kind of sweets or carbs or comfort foods or caffeine or, another cup of coffee or something. I know some
used to be really bad about that.
Yep. So balancing your blood sugar, you will have more stable energy levels throughout the course of the day. With that, you'll also notice a reduced amount of brain fog. Blood fog, that just sounds like a bad disease.
Gross.
I got the blood fog, mama. But you'll have more stable energy levels. You will have reduced brain fog, not blood fog, or blood flog, which I also said, and just overall improved well-being. You'll just feel better because you're not on that kind of like glucose, like up and down roller coaster throughout the day. So those are just short-term benefits. Long-term benefits, I mean, one of the biggest ones is like overall improved metabolic health. And what does that mean in kind of layman's terms? That means that you're going to reduce, I can't talk today. I'm just adding vowels where they don't go. Reduced risk of a lot of metabolic issues. So like reduced risk of like pre-metabolic syndrome, type 2 diabetes, right? You're going to you could potentially reduce your level of obesity and again, like improve that physique, that body recomposition. And in setting up this podcast, taking notes for it, I was not shocked, but just my heart was broken to realize that only 12% of adults in the United States are metabolically healthy. 12%. That means 88% of us are not metabolically healthy. And I mean, again, that's like, I guess, job security for us because that's what I'm trying to do. That's what she's trying to do. That's what we're trying to do with nutrient health and fitness is just to improve metabolic health. So now that we've got the why of balancing and maintaining a good blood sugar levels, let's get into the hows. Like, how do you actually do this? So I want to just share there are tons and tons of ways to do this, but I want to share like 6 ways that Holly and I do, like 6 things that we do throughout the course of the day or the course of the week to help balance our blood sugar levels. So I've kind of got these set up in order of like easiest to do to more advanced and difficult. But so with that, 6 ways, let's just jump in. Number 1, the easiest thing you can do, walk, right? Going for a simple walk. There's actually been studies done that show 10 minutes of walking postprandial. I'm going to write down the words and I'm going to let you read them off. I'm done talking today.
You're good.
10 minutes of postprandial walking after a meal is as effective at lowering and maintaining blood sugar as metformin, right? So just 10 minutes, that's it. 10 minutes after you get done eating, you go for a little bit of a walk. It doesn't have to be anything super intense. And that'll actually come up again here in a little bit in a couple of numbers. But just 10 minutes after you eat will help balance that blood sugar. It doesn't need to be 30 or 40 minutes. And I've made the mistake in the past of like I eat and then I'm going to go for a walk and I get on a phone call and it's 90 minutes in and I come back home and I'm hungry again because it was like too much of a walk. So just 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes, right? That's all it takes.
And Andy and I walk almost every single day, if
Yep.
not every single day, and
Yep.
just do like 1 or 2 laps outside. And it's like, it's nice just to be out in the sunshine or, be like, sometimes we'll go early in the morning, but it's nice. It's also relaxing and calming, after a long day, or, like if you have a heavier meal, even if it's like all healthy food, you still feel full. And so that just helps you feel better and digest better, and just great overall.
Yep, that's the biggest thing, is it helps digestion, right? Like she said, it just helps you feel better. If you feel kind of full, it's good to get out and walk. I kind of laughed because with our walks we walk usually first thing in the morning. I've said before in this podcast, we usually get up like 3:30 in the morning, because that's like, why do we do that is usually the response to that, and it's we get up at that time so we have time to read and study and then get our workout started around 4:30 or 5. So we usually try to get out and walk for about 15 to 20 minutes around 4:30, 4:45, and then come in and lift for 45 minutes to an hour. I was laughing because when talking about going out for a walk, it made me think of the older lady.
Oh, yeah.
So fun little anecdote, fun little story. Maybe, I don't know, 2 weeks ago, I was going for a walk, and this is going to sound silly, and I know anybody listening to this that knows me and knows what I look like, they're going to roll their eyes, but growing up as an overweight kid, I still have it stuck in my head of like all of the trauma that you go through as an overweight kid of like being made fun of when you take your shirt off. So for me to like walk around, like the fact that I wear tank tops now out and about is like a massive victory for me. I've been doing that for a couple years, but like I was literally in the bedroom pacing with my tank top off, thinking like, can I go outside without my tank top? Is this okay? Is this gonna like, so that's like the mental side of things, right? The stories we tell ourselves. And I finally said like, screw it. Because the reason I didn't want to is because I'm in my head saying, well, I'm not where I want to be physically. Like I don't have the absolute just shredded 8-pack and like just airtight skin and all that. I don't want to go out there like this. And I realized like, well, I'm never going to be there. I'm never going to be like, I'm always going to kind of set the bar a little bit further ahead. Like, okay, let's say 3 months from now, I've got the 8-pack. And I was like, okay, well now can I get a 12-pack and like, just, like make muscles that don't even exist. But so, long story short, I finally said, screw it, and I'm going out for a walk, and I'm talking to a friend on the phone, and I hear, I was also kind of worried because we live in like, we don't live in like a retirement community, but like, the majority of the people here are like older, right? Overall, like 70% of them or something. And I'm thinking like somebody's going to say something about this guy walking around in like some shorts with his shirt off. And as I'm walking past, I hear kind of like coming from behind me, like, because I have the headphones in, and I turn around and I see an old lady like standing out on her doorstep, like clearly like talking to me. And I'm like, oh Jesus, I'm in trouble. And I turn around, I'm like taking out an earbud, coming back to her, like, I'm sorry, ma'am, like what'd you say? And she was like, I just want to tell you, you look so good, sweetheart. She's like, all that walking you're doing is paying off. And she was like, honey, I got to tell you, I got a son that's your age, so I'm not hitting on you. I just want to tell you, you look so good. Just keep walking. Just keep doing it.
I have to beat these old ladies off.
Yeah, I told Holly, like, if I keep it up, it's going to be just a matter of days where I have like a train of old ladies following me back to the apartment. So, but no, so go for your 10-minute walk, and you never know. You might pick up a small fan club if you do it. All right, so walking. So, number 2, another way that you can kind of help blunt the spike in blood sugar in a meal, if you're having just like, say you're just having carbohydrates, is by adding fiber, protein, or fats, or a combination of them, because adding that fiber or protein and/or fats will actually help slow down the digestion of those carbohydrates, which will then help slow down that big spike of insulin that comes with the big spike in blood sugar. So simply adding in fibers, proteins, and fats, and that might even be number 1, because I think anybody could add in a little bit of fiber, protein, and fats, instead of walking. But hey, add those in and then go for a walk. But adding in those fibers, those proteins, and those fats will actually help promote satiety too. So that, basically like that sense of fullness. So you'll slow down the digestion, you'll slow down that big spike, and you will, like I said, feel fuller longer. Mm-hmm. So, number 3, resistant. Huh? Her favorite. Yeah, number 3, her favorite. My favorite too. But resistance training. So lifting some weights. Now, why does that help? Why does lifting weights make a difference with your blood sugar? Because, again, trying to keep this surface level, but just think of your muscles as a glucose sink. So if you have elevated blood glucose because you've eaten, right? So your blood sugar is elevated because you've had food. If you do some resistance training, either right before or after, you are actually creating the demand for your muscles to pull that glucose out of the blood and like store it in the muscles. So this is also referred to as something called nutrient partitioning. So if you think of like a partition in a room, right, you draw that partition down to kind of like separate the room into two things. Nutrient partitioning is basically like you're telling your body like, hey, that food that I just ate, I want it to go to the muscles, not stored as fat. So there's obviously, context and variables that play into that. And that doesn't mean like if you have a bagel, you need to go lift weights for 2 hours. But it's just like that's something that, again, the benefit of like having a gym right here, if I have a meal and it's a little bit much or whatever, I can go in and do like 15 minutes of just some kind of light upper body work or lower body work or whatever it is.
That's what I'd do before I'd go work out. Like when I used to train with you, I'd have like oatmeal and strawberries like an hour and a half before. And then I'd feel super energized, ready to go. And it'd just go straight to my muscles.
So straight to your muscles. And that's true too, because that's, if you're going in, and there's something to be said for stress, which will come up here in a second. But if you're going in, I prefer working out on an empty stomach, but then that's a fine line, because if you're going in without a ton of energy, availability, you can only go so long. If you're in there for an hour and a half, 2 hours, your body's going to be running low on blood sugar, and then we're getting into another problem as far as like elevated cortisol, and that's another topic for another podcast, but we will talk on stress a little bit. But that's why that Holly could go in and she'd be in there for like 2 hours, and we've talked about this in previous podcasts.
It was my fun like relaxation time.
So it's not like she was in there for like 2 hours or 3 hours, like just like set after set after set after set. No. I mean, she would sit there and do a couple sets and then like innocently flirt with me as I'm training a client and distract me repeatedly. But she would be in there and I'd be like kind of looking down at my imaginary watch, like, get out of here, go home. So if you do have that fuel before or, like I said, after, then training can help kind of direct those nutrients to the muscle to recover from the workout that you're doing instead of getting stored as fat. So resistance training, number 3. Number 4, so you can plan your calorie amounts ahead of time. So what I mean, there are two things. This is kind of like a 4A and 4B when it comes to this. So let's say you have a big birthday party, anniversary party, dinner party, whatever it might be. Some kind of big event that you're going to be going to in the evening, and it's coming up, right? You can actually offset your calories by having like maybe a smaller than usual breakfast, a smaller than usual lunch, and or even just skipping one of those meals outright altogether, to then a lot more of your calories. So let's say you have like, just to keep it simple, 2,000 calories that you're trying to have a day. If you would normally have, 600 calories and 800 calories, like throughout those 3 meals, you could do 400 calories, and then 1,200 calories if my math is correct. So you can just make those first meals leading up to that thing smaller, or just outright skip them. You do
with the 4th of July, like we did with the 4th of July.
Exactly. So 4th of July, we got invited to a pool party, and we both knew that we never eat, like, I shouldn't say never. We're not like overly restrictive. I have to be very careful because my stomach has been sensitive since I was like in middle school. So it's been kind of like a blessing and a curse. She, like in her words, your girl can eat.
Yeah.
She can eat foods and it doesn't really bother her. But like if I have a lot of white bread or like ice cream or something like that, it'll kind of tear me up. So I knew, and she knew, that we were going to go to this pool party and have like restrictions off. Like I'm going to eat, if there's Ruffles chips, I'm going to eat some Ruffles chips. If there's a hot dog bun or a hamburger bun, I'm going to eat a hamburger bun or a hot dog bun. And I know that sounds silly, but like I said, these are things that like will for whatever reason just not sit well with me if I do it too much. Like, so once in a while, okay, cool, but you can't go and buy like one hot dog bun. You buy a pack, and so like now you have 7 or 5 other. So I just try to avoid it. But for that 4th of July party, we planned on, like, I think we just had like a couple of protein shakes. We did like a light workout, nothing crazy. Yeah, we just did like protein shakes and like exogenous ketones, so that by the time we got to that pool party, And they were cooking and it was smelling. I was like, man, they need to hurry up with that food. I'm about to start eating some of these pool toys real quick.
Yeah.
So that's 4A. You can offset the calories leading up to the event. You can like just go lighter. 4B would be, let's say you didn't plan that well and you end up having more than you wanted to, then you could offset the calories on the day after. So that would be something like a 24-hour fast, or maybe just an extended intermittent fast. So, or like an OMAD, 1 meal a day. So that's something to where it's like, say you normally go whatever, like the typical American, I think we only get like 8 to 10 hours from like dinner to breakfast. But let's say you do like a normal 10 to 12 hour break from the time you ate dinner to the time that you ate breakfast. Like you could push into like 12 or 14 hours. Makes me think of the time that me and you went out for that dinner date. What was that goat cafe that we went to? Is that what it was called?
Just the goat.
The goat?
Yeah.
So she and I had planned on, again, something that we don't do a lot because we're just like busy. We don't go out to eat a lot. And we had made plans to go out to a restaurant, and we both, I think by the time we got to the restaurant, and this was intentional, by the time we got to the restaurant, I think we were 21 hours fasted, or you were like 20 and a half, and I was like 21 and a half or something. I always got to try to beat you in whatever we do. Competitive.
Not competitive at all.
Not at all. But we got there, and I remember like the server, I told him, I was like, dude, like we're almost 24 hours fasted.
About to eat.
We're both going to get like 2 entrees, just so you know. And he's like, okay, cool. Like, I mean, and like the table was like just a little 2-seater, and like we're like fighting for elbow room just to even have like this 4 meals on there. So, but so that's something that you can do, is that 4B is kind of like offset the calories on the next day and just kind of skip it a little bit. I will say that you do have to be mindful of this, though. There are dangers, right? So, like, it's one thing I'll see clients do, people who, like, think that they're doing a good job intermittent fasting. What they're actually doing is, like, essentially restricting themselves all week long and then binging on the weekends. And it's not a planned thing. That's called, like, an unhealthy relationship with food. That's an unhealthy, like, psychological story that you're telling yourself. Yeah. So that can turn into a very vicious cycle very easily, right? And I know firsthand, like I can generally, if I'm working with someone who is doing that, their physiology, so like their physical appearance, but also like things that they complain about, I'll know that that's kind of going on based on the way they show up and the things that they talk about. So just be mindful of that. It's one thing to plan it and do it once in a while for like, again, a special thing or something. But like if it's every Friday you go out and you know, you get shit-faced at the bar, and then, or every Saturday or every Friday and Saturday you get shit-faced at the bar, and then Sunday you're just like, I'm just not going to eat all day. You know, there are pros and cons with that, so be careful. It's also really dangerous for anyone that has any kind of a history of disordered eating, and I've been very open with like my history of disordered eating in the past, and like fasting was something that it was like a love-hate relationship for me to try to kind of find how to use it properly. And it wasn't really until I started to get a healthier relationship with food that like I'm able to like kind of throw fasting in when I want to, and out of the benefit of doing it. So anything on that?
No.
All right. So number 5, we're nearing the end, but number 5, so I've hinted at this a couple times, managing your stress. And why is it important to manage your stress when it comes to blood sugar? I think that's something that people generally don't think about, but to keep things, again, surface level, micronutrient, super simple. Managing stress is important because if you think about in the body stress, and we'll go over different types of stress, but if you are stressed, if your body is sensing stress, you can think of it as like a little fire alarm going off in the body, and your brain's going like ding, 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 like something ain't right, something is inflamed somewhere. And oftentimes the body's response to stress is, you know, again, simplifying it, but like cortisol. Most people are at least familiar, they've heard of the term cortisol, and cortisol is your body's response, is part of your body's response to stress. And cortisol serves a specific purpose, and actually one of the things, so where you store body fat, like where you store fat on your body rather, can kind of indicate certain hormonal issues. And if you are someone who struggles specifically with keeping weight on the midsection, like around your core, your torso, right? You know, maybe like the love handles or like that kind of pooch in the front, that can be from cortisol and blood sugar issues. And if you think about why, like I nerd out for this stuff, I think it's really cool. But so if you go back like tens of thousands of years and, you know, like let's say you're, you know, God forbid, but you're being chased by a lion, right? That cortisol is going to spike. And it's number one, it serves you to like fight or flight, like get the hell out of there or try to fight the lion if you're a badass, whatever you want to do. But that cortisol is going to spike. And part of the response of cortisol, again, is keeping that weight in the midsection because, again, God forbid, but if that lion like were to happen to get, you know, snag your arm and you know, pull your arm off, I didn't think it was going to turn like this, but this is where we're going, so buckle up. But if that lion happens to pull your arm, you know, get your arm or get your leg even, you like snags your foot or something like that, and everybody's calling you Stumpy from now on, like you can survive. This is going downhill quick. If you lose that limb, you'll still, you know, ideally, you'll still be able to live. Whereas if that midsection gets, you know, gored or damaged, then like your chances of survival are potentially slimmer. So your body, part of what that cortisol response does is it retains fluid in the midsection to kind of like cushion and protect you from an external threat. Now, thankfully, most people listening to this probably aren't experiencing a daily lion pursuit. So if you are, message us and we'll try to help you out. But your body doesn't understand that like the shithead boss breathing down your neck is not a lion. It just senses like this person, this physiological, biological entity is stressed out. So cortisol goes up. As cortisol goes up, you start like, so prior to cortisol, you have glucocorticoids. And again, I'm going to keep this surface level, right? I can hear some people specifically saying like, you're getting too deep. I know who you are. I still love you. But so cortisol will go high, but also something called glucagon will go high. And like the long story short of the stress thing is if your stress is elevated, your body will think that you're again in trouble. So it's going to start then like telling the liver to go through gluconeogenesis, which is just your body, long story short, the long story short version of that is your body is telling your liver to produce more carbohydrates, more glucose, right, for energy. So, but if you don't have, I need to simplify this. If you're stressed, right, then your body is going to essentially start freeing up glucose, which will send your blood sugar up. Let's put it that way, okay? So this is where I start to get on my tangent. Like I want to like give all of the details, and I'm like surface level. That whole time something in my brain was saying, "Shut up, simplify." So, in the presence of stress, your blood sugar can go up because your body is trying to free up energy reserves for you to, you know, have the energy again to fight or flight, right? To get the hell out of there, or again, attack the lion or your boss if you just want to jump on your boss, whatever it ends up being. So when like if you're looking at stress, like what can that stress come from? Well, like circadian stress. So if you're not getting good sleep, like one bad night of sleep, which this leads me to another thing, but one bad night of sleep will increase your insulin resistance, which means your body kind of like decreases its ability to properly use insulin. It will decrease leptin sensitivity, which leptin is basically a hormone that like it helps you feel full. And I can always remember that because leptin starts with an L and full, so I always think full leptin. So one bad night of sleep will decrease your body's ability to use insulin, which will cause you blood sugar issues. It will decrease your body's like sensitivity to leptin, which means you won't register that you're full like you normally would. And it increases ghrelin, and ghrelin is kind of the opposite to leptin. So it's increasing ghrelin, which I always remember that because I think hunger.
Sounds like little gremlins in your stomach.
Right, yeah. Well, hell, that's another good way of thinking of it, right? Yeah. Little gremlins in your stomach. So I always think of hunger, ghrelin. So full leptin, hungrelin, right? But the long story short of that is, and you can, if you're listening to this and, you know, and you're a human being, you've probably had a bad night of sleep, you can probably think back and be like, wow, yeah, I did like, I was hungrier than normal, and not only hungrier than normal, I've talked about this in the podcast, if you have that poor sleep, you're probably going to be hungrier, but you're also going to be hungrier specifically for more fuel-dense food. So you're going to be reaching for things that are higher in calories, higher in sugar, higher in fats and you're just going to be like, why am I craving this? It's like, well, you didn't get a good night's sleep. So circadian stress. You can also just look at like lifestyle stress, right? If you have chronic stress in your life, be it like you work out 7 days a week and it's always a super hard workout, and you're the person that's doing boot camp 5 days a week and CrossFit for a second workout, and you're doing a low carb diet, and you're just, getting up at 4 a.m. and you're like, like all through the day, like living life like a Spartan or something. That's probably a stressor. So your lifestyle can play into it, your workout schedule can play into it, your job can play out into it, right? And I think right now it seems like people are kind of falling into one camp or the other. Either you just don't have a job and you're like, I'm never going back to work again, like the great resignation with COVID and all that. Or you're somebody who, because everybody else is quitting their job, you're like, I'm working 3 different positions right now for my one job, right? So work can be another one. Your mindset. So even just like the way you think about yourself, if you're kind of like that self-talk is super negative, that can increase your stress. And then lastly, if you think about all of those things, like the mindset especially, placebo, right? So the stories you're telling yourself. So one thing, like one way to look at this, and this was something like, again, that personally kind of hit me, is like, well, if I don't sleep good, that's a stressor. And then I get stressed because I don't have good sleep. So now I'm stressed because I'm stressed. So that's something where that placebo effect, right? Doctors will talk about if they could make the placebo effect a pill, it would be the most successful, most impactful pill ever made. And they have to control for the placebo effect when they do studies. So why am I saying that? I'm saying that because if you can start to catch yourself before you go into those mental patterns of like, oh God, I didn't sleep good, so now I'm stressed, and because I'm stressed, I'm stressed, and because I'm stressed, I'm stressed, I'm stressed, right? You get into that loop. Catch yourself and just be like, okay, I got a bad night of sleep last night. Why? Well, this is the reason. Okay, I stayed up binge watching, Stranger Things season 15 or whatever it might be. Like, catch yourself and say, it's okay. It's going to be all right. I'm human. I made the mistake of that, and I won't do it today, right? But you can also even just like flip the script, and like one of the most powerful things, there's so many like little things that I talk about throughout the podcast. It's like, if you just take one thing away, like eat whole foods, if you do this, just listen to this. Another really important, powerful mindset thing is like, and I've talked about it before, is how can you take what's potentially the worst thing that's happened to you and make it the best thing that's happened to you? And a lot of times it just comes from asking better questions, right? So if you say, man, I got a bad night of sleep and I'm stressed out about that, then you can just say like, well, how could I get a better night's sleep, right? Don't beat yourself up, and don't allow that placebo effect of like, oh God, I screwed up, to make it worse. Flip it around and say like, okay, cool, bad night of sleep, done, behind me, can't do anything about it, don't have my time machine. How can I make a time machine, right? Like whatever it might be, like flip the script and ask yourself, why does Google start talking? Google in the kitchen is answering my question. Maybe it's telling me how to build a time machine.
There you go.
Can you take over? And I'm going to go, you take over the podcast. I'm going to see what Google had to say. So, but that mindset and the stories you tell yourself, and just being cognizant and aware, I think is super powerful. So use the placebo effect to your benefit. Don't let it be to your detriment, right? So managing stress, number 5. Number 6, and finally, I thought that said good day. I was like, what did I put on there? Finally, the last one, number 6, supplements. So what I thought said good day is GDAs. So this is something I would encourage people to look into. Is GDA stands for glucose disposal agent. So these are things that will like dispose of the glucose that's in your bloodstream. A really common one that if anybody is listening to this has a medication or prescription for metformin. Metformin is essentially a glucose disposal agent. So I'm going to give a list of like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12-ish supplements. And obviously, again, surface level, I'm just going to rattle these off. Maybe like a little bit of context behind the ones that need context. Any of these supplements, if you are a human being, which I'm assuming you are, unless an AI might be listening to this, I know I'm on to you. But if you are a human being and you have a doctor, which is probably most of you, unless not like me and Holly, we're just like, no insurance, YOLO. But talk to your doctor before you start any of these, right? I've had clients ask me if they could take this very first one along with metformin. I was like, maybe, but like, talk to your doctor. Like if you do, don't just consult Dr. Google and I'm not even a doctor, so I can't say Dr. Frisch, but like, don't consult us and Dr. Google and just think it's okay. Talk to your doctor. So with that disclaimer out of the way, So let's get into this little list. So the supplements that you can look at doing that will help balance your blood sugar. Number one, I think probably the most powerful one on this list is something called Berberine. So, and this is one, I think that when I started talking about Berberine last week, that's where, because I started going off into like MAO inhibition and catecholamines and all that. And I was just like, I'm going down, baby. Help me. I'm crashing. But so I'm not going to go into any of the side effects of berberine today, but berberine is a plant extract, and pretty much anything on here, these are all natural. Yeah, for the most part, these are all natural supplements. Berberine is a plant extract, and I'm going to keep it surface level. It is comparable in strength and effect to metformin. It does have some antimicrobial effects, so it can help, like if you have kind of a gut dysbiosis, like a imbalance in the bacteria in your gut, berberine can help kind of wipe that out. And I've never taken metformin, but from what I understand, metformin, like one of the common side effects is it causes like gastrointestinal issues, like, just like stomach problems. Berberine does not have that same side effect, right? So I know for me personally, a standard dose is like 500 milligrams. I do a little bit less than that just because already kind of healthy, balanced blood sugar, but I do use it a couple times throughout the week if I have like a really big carb meal. And like berberine can help kind of get things moving, if you know what I mean, but it's not stomach cramps or upset stomach or anything. It's like, oh, I'm gonna go take a berberine poop real quick. So TMI, but you're here, so too late. So after berberine, there's an entire class of compounds, and this is kind of more in the traditional Chinese medicine, and I think like Ayurvedic medicine. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. That's how I've always said it, but like traditional Chinese and Indian medicines, but they're called bitters. So if you look up, bitters and blood sugar, and that can be, again, if you guys have questions on bitters and you want me to dive more into it, then again, email it. nutrienthaf@gmail.com. That's all one word, nutrienthaf, and I'll be happy to go into more depth on bitters. But bitters so number one, they are bitter, right? They taste bitter. And there's a lot of history to bitters. I think it was a Tim Ferriss podcast I was listening to, and he said that there's like an ancient Japanese or Chinese saying that like the elders in the city it's like, when referring to the younger people, is like, oh, like they can't stand the bitters, like they're still so focused on the sweet stuff of life, they don't appreciate like the bitters. So bitters are actually really good for you, and I know she doesn't appreciate the bitters.
I don't.
So
I know they're good for you.
Yeah. And they're again, and bitters, again, big class of things, and they are more than just blood sugar control. They're, like, a lot of them are really good for digestion, and there's actually one that I will pair with berberine that's not on this list, but I'll throw it out there, called Andrographis paniculata. And I always like saying it because I had a zoology professor a couple years ago. Like, anytime we were talking about like a biological feature on thing, and he'd be like, Chelicerata. So every time I say I'm going to get some Andrographis, it's always, hey, I'm going to get some Andrographis paniculata. So inside joke, but there it is. So bitters, after that, we're segueing into another one called bitter melon extract. So that's something that you can find very commonly, a lot of the Amazons and GNCs and all that. Bitter melon extract will help balance blood sugar. Alpha lipoic acid. Alpha lipoic acid can help. It's like a mild glucose disposal agent. Again, berberine is like, the king of the list, but alpha lipoic acid will do that. There's also been, I need to see for sure if this has if it's still upholding, but there was some evidence saying that alpha lipoic acid helps people who lost their sense of smell and taste from COVID, that like alpha lipoic acid was helping them get that back. Yeah. But one of our clients takes alpha lipoic acid every day, and I think she's like 6-7 months into it, and she's just now getting it back. She
really smells skunk, right?
Yeah. She's like, I smelled skunk. I was like, well, that's awesome. Congratulations. So alpha lipoic acid it has some other benefits too. Like, I think it can help chelate heavy metals that can build up in your brain. I think alpha lipoic acid is one of the few things that can actually help to like pull those out and detox your body from that. Cinnamon, super common, right? Everybody,
super yummy.
As she said, her words, Mama loves her cinnamon, so she puts it on oatmeal whenever she has that. Mm-hmm. Cinnamon, that's a really common one. Most people are, if you're at all familiar with balancing your blood sugar, you're probably waiting for cinnamon. So cinnamon can help. Another really common household one, apple cider vinegar, I think does to a certain degree, it can help balance blood sugar. Basically, I think it's just also helping your liver work a little more efficiently. So apple cider vinegar is another good one. So chromium is another one. And I have notes in here. I pulled this from like an old Google Doc that, I've got notes upon notes upon notes, but chromium, I specifically had in the notes that chromium nicotinate is preferred, but chromium picolinate is okay. We have some chromium picolinate here in the house. Chromium is something that it's not, I don't know if it's an essential nutrient. I don't think it's an essential nutrient, but it is something that like your body, well, if I say your body does need it, it would make it an essential nutrient, but it's a mineral that your body utilizes to basically like help quell hunger levels. So, but it does have an effect on blood sugar levels. Another one, this is the least pronounceable one for me on the entire list. I've used it and I've seen it, but Gymnema sylvestri. It's probably nowhere near. How would you try and say that if you didn't? If I didn't say that, how would you have said that?
Gymnema sylvestri.
So make sure if your blood sugar is up, get some Gymnema sylvestri. You're not seeing this anyways because there are notes behind. If you're not watching this on YouTube, guys, watch this on YouTube. I think you get more out of it. You missed me prior to doing all this. I was going to do some dead bugs as we were filming, but all right. So if you are curious about the Gymnema sylvestri, it's spelled Gymnema, and then the second word is Sylvestre. So not
Sylvester.
Yeah, Sylvester. So yeah, so Gymnema sylvestri. I don't know. We got three more on this. So benfotiamine is basically that's something that we take a couple times throughout the week. Not even just for blood sugar, but benfotiamine will help with mitochondrial health. That's a whole other subject for a whole other podcast, but improving your mitochondrial health will basically just improve your energy all the way across the board. And I would imagine it's safe to say that controlling your blood sugar, having healthy blood sugar levels is also going to improve your mitochondrial health. So benfotiamine is, again, it's a different form of thiamine. That's the only one that I think might be man-made. Again, I need to look at that. I'm not 100% sure, but we take a couple different types of thiamine that and again, thiamine is like, it's a B vitamin, right? It's B1, right? Yeah, it's B1. So benfotiamine would help like with physical energy. There's another one I take on occasion and she does too on occasion, called solbutamine, which helps with brain health. Like if we're going to have a day like today where we just kind of, after the podcast, we're going to sit around and read, solbutamine is a good one to do that, but I'm off topic. So back on topic, the last two, magnesium, super common one. Different forms of magnesium. Without going into all of the depth and detail on that, there are typically, it used to be three that I would recommend, and I still recommend the three forms of it, but we really only use two forms of it anymore. If you go to like just your typical GNC or vitamin shop or something, the magnesium that you get is probably going to be magnesium oxide, which is not very bioavailable. Bioavailable. I was going to say bioavailability, and I was like, I'm just going to stop that word right there. Magnesium oxide. Also, look at your multivitamin. If you see magnesium oxide, zinc oxide, that's a super cheap and not very bioavailable form of that mineral. So it's like, this is just kind of a sign that the supplement manufacturer is just kind of like skimping on the quality and just trying to put it in there to say it's got magnesium, because it does, but you're not absorbing much of it. I think the absorption rate of magnesium oxide is like 4 to 10% of what it is. But you could also be getting magnesium citrate or magnesium aspartate. There are other forms of it. The ones I recommend specifically, and the ones that we take, magnesium glycinate or bisglycinate used to be at the top of that list. The only reason it's not anymore is because some people, so magnesium glycinate or bisglycinate can be used before bed to help you relax. Now, the problem with that is some people that can be actually like excitatory. I don't know ratios, but and this is a very arbitrary number, but let's say like 80% of people, magnesium glycinate helps them relax, and 20% kind of wakes them up. But we noticed that we were taking that, it's like I'd be so tired and I would take it and be like, actually, I feel awake. And I cut out the magnesium glycinate, and it made a big difference. So really, the two that we use on a pretty regular basis would be magnesium threonate, and that's a great form of magnesium, like for your brain, like memory and creativity. That's pretty much a daily driver for us. We either take it at night or in the morning. And then magnesium malate. Magnesium malate is going to be more absorbed by the muscles, and that one is like not excitatory, so it's not going to be like a caffeine shot, but it is more energizing. So you don't want to do magnesium malate later on in the day. But magnesium will help balance blood sugar. The very last one, I don't really have a whole lot to say on this. It was just on my list in my notes. Maitake Mushroom. So as far as spelling, Maitake mushroom, Maitake mushrooms, those help balance blood sugar. So I will wrap it there. Do you have any additional things to add to that list? Any thoughts?
No, I think it's a good list.
Good. All right, so that is everything that we have for episode number 17. Again, guys, if you can, we would love it if you took a screenshot, anything that you shared, anything, even if you want to tell people to go walk and have old ladies hit them in the parking lot, whatever it might be, please screenshot this, post it to Facebook, post it to Instagram. Like, let us know what you learned. Tag us at nutrient_official or Andy Frisch, Holly Frisch. And again, if you go 2 seconds, leave us a 5-star review on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Angel gets its wings when you do that. Our podcast will grow, and we will love you forever and ever and ever for doing that. Yes. So again, episode 18 coming up at you will be kind of some tips and tricks about getting a six-pack and also the cost of getting a six-pack, because it's not easy, which is why very few people have them. Mm-hmm. And then episode 19 is we've got a growing list of Q&As, and I am sorry for all the people that queued so we could we're going to be doing like a big Q&A episode. So those are coming down the nutrient chute at you. So with that, you guys, thank you for listening. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Have a rest of your day.
Yeah.
Have a restful day. Have a restful. There you go. Have a very good, great, restful rest of your day. This one went off a lot better than last week, I would say. Yeah. Last week, I literally, as we were finishing up the recording, I remember I was just kind of looking at the keyboard as it's recording, this is bad. This is so bad. So we did a lot better on this one. I'm glad that we kind of pulled the Nutrient Health Project podcast from the fires of hell and it has reborn. So yeah. I feel pretty good with this one. So thank you guys for listening. We will catch you next week talking about some six-packs. And again, if you have questions, nutrienthaf@gmail.com. And that is what we got for you. So love all your beautiful faces, even though I can't see you. I know you're listening. I can feel your ears listening. Mm-hmm. So thank you for listening, guys. We are excited about the future, and everybody that's been there from day one. Jesus, Lord Almighty, I love you so much. So thank you for being here. Thank you for having our back. Thank you for all the feedback you're sending to us, whether it's text messages, calls, Facebook Messenger.
It means a lot.
Y'all are awesome. So every single one of us. So let's see where we can go with this. But all right, with that, guys, later Gators, later taters. We'll talk to you soon, guys. We love you.
Love you. Bye.
All right, bye.